Can Texas Tech bounce back against the top 15 ranked Oregon Ducks team in the Red Raiders home opener in one of the most highly anticipated matchups in Lubbock in the past 20 years? There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a tall task for the Red Raiders on Saturday. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long. We've got you covered with game previews, 3 keys to the game, film breakdowns, the latest breaking news, injury updates, and much more. And the best part about it, it's 100% free. Join the most engaging Texas Tech community here on YouTube by simply hitting that subscribe button. And, well, you can stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long. All right, before we get into the said preview, I got to hear from you guys on this one. Let me know your score prediction. It's that simple. I know that there's a lot of downers right now, and rightfully so to some degree, when it comes to Texas Tech football right now. But let me know your true score prediction for the Red Raiders against the top 15 team in the Oregon Ducks under the lights at Jones AT&T Stadium on Saturday night. All right, scene setter right now for Texas Tech. This is what we've got. Texas Tech obviously coming off that awful loss, 35-33 up in Wyoming, where basically everything was self-inflicted when it comes to the Red Raiders defense in terms of allowing Wyoming to sustain drives and capitalize on it. Give credit to the Cowboys on that front. But the Cowboys scored 13 points off of penalties for the Red Raiders that sustained drives for Wyoming. And obviously, if you score 7 points, Texas Tech scored 20, it'd be a very different outcome right now, and we'd have a very different tone going into the Oregon game. Well, Oregon, on the other hand, they're feeling pretty good right now coming into the 806 as they beat Portland State 81-7. Yeah, you heard that score right, 81-7. And I get it, it's Portland State, but you play who's on your schedule and you handle business, and Oregon did just that. And now they've got a little bit of momentum coming into Lubbock, and Texas Tech is going to have to really figure some things out when it comes down to what they need to improve upon and actually going out and making those changes that they see on tape. All right, history between these two clubs is pretty simple. Oregon is 2-0 all-time against Texas Tech. The two meetings coming back in 1991 and 1992 in a home-and-home. The last game was in Eugene, and Oregon won 16-13. Now, this is the 15th meeting in Texas Tech history in terms of them being in the Big 12 dating back to 1996 that they have played a Power 5 opponent in the non-con schedule. Texas Tech is 4-11 during that time. But when you look at Texas Tech at home dating back to last season, they're a completely different team at home. And it's interesting to look at from this standpoint. Texas Tech was 6-1 last year at home and 3-1 in night games. The lone loss at home last year was to Baylor when Patrick Mahomes was getting inducted into the Ring of Honor. Now, Oregon also represents the highest ranked non-conference opponent to come to Lubbock since number 1 Nebraska, dating back to 1994 in the same week number 2 in 1994. We're talking about 29 years right now, right? This is a big deal for Texas Tech in terms of what's going on for this game. And no, it was a sellout basically from the jump. But again, this is a massive deal for Texas Tech, not only for the fan base, but to get back on track as well. And another big deal, the one going on at Home Field Apparel right now, where you can get your favorite Texas Tech shirt right now for 15% off when you use the code BACK212. Listen, it's primetime Texas Tech football season. Basketball season isn't into the too distant future. Get your new favorite Texas Tech shirt over at homefieldapparel.com and save 15% when you use the code BACK212. All right, let's get into the injury updates for both squads in this one. You've got Jacob Rodriguez, who will be out 4 to 6 weeks for the Red Raiders at the linebacker spot due to a foot injury. You will have Ben Roberts move into the Mike linebacker spot for Texas Tech when Josiah Pierre shifts over to the Will linebacker spot for this one against Oregon. Another injury in the linebacking core for Texas Tech is Isaac Smith. He is out for the year with a knee injury, according to Joey McGuire. Some stuff that has dated back to even last season and potentially his high school time. They just wanted to get everything squared away so he can be good to go for the rest of his career out in the 806. Now, Dennis Wilburn shifting to the offensive side, the starting right guard for Texas Tech, sustained a knee injury up at Wyoming. He will be a game-time decision and go through the full week of practice and really see how he feels after going through pregame warmups against the Ducks and then go from there. If he does not start at right guard for Texas Tech, it more than likely will be Landon Peters. Now, Oregon has a laundry list of guys that are injured right now, and some did not play against Portland State, so some of them really don't stand out. Obviously, Noah Whittington, their starting running back, is a guy that really stands out. And when I say starting running backs, they've got a couple of running backs that are just electric. He's a guy that's definitely a really good one for them, though. That's the guy that stands out. And when you look at some of the guys in terms of Jacobs and Kelly, they missed the game against Portland State. That's not too shocking in terms of the Duck surprises on the injury front. Now, players to watch in this one. It's got to start with Tyler Shuck if you're Texas Tech. Listen, he has to be better against Oregon. There's no doubt about that. Do I think he played good against Wyoming? No. Do I think he played like crap against Wyoming? No. I think he had some bad plays like virtually every college quarterback does, but I just thought the offense struggled at every level. And you're going to put most of that blame at the quarterback spot, and I completely understand that. But if he doesn't have better reads and have less batted balls and better throws to wide receivers in space when it's available, this could be a long, long day for Texas Tech offensively, especially if the offensive line doesn't improve in the run game. And that's where we'll shift next in terms of players to watch. It's not players or a specific player, I should say. It's players in this front in terms of the offensive line for the Red Raiders. The only stat I really need to tell you guys in terms of what they need to improve upon is 2.8 yards per carry. That's just not going to cut it. That's what they averaged, did the Texas Tech running backs behind the Texas Tech offensive line up in Laramie. It's got to improve because let's face it, if they don't run the ball better against Oregon, this game's going to get ugly pretty damn quick. On the defensive side for Texas Tech, Josiah Pierre shifting from the Mike linebacker to the Will linebacker, and Ben Roberts will play alongside him. I want to see what that looks like, and I think he will help in the run game potentially, really limiting to a degree the Oregon run game. Oregon's going to get theirs on the ground, but limit it and really help disguise some blitz and really throw in some packages that could throw Bo Nix off in terms of the blitz packages with Josiah Pierre from the linebacker position. Speaking of Bo Nix, that's the guy you got to talk about when it comes to Oregon. And there's a lot of great players on Oregon. Let's not get it twisted. But Bo Nix is that guy. I mean, he's a true Heisman contender. He had 287 yards, 3 touchdowns against Portland State, and really didn't have to do much after that. But that game is just really just one blip on the radar in terms of how good Bo Nix is. If the Texas Tech defense doesn't come in and really play its best game of the season, Bo Nix is going to tear this defense up. It's that simple. So Texas Tech has to improve drastically in a lot of areas. I think the secondary will come to play. I thought the secondary actually played solidly against Wyoming for stretches, but they're going to have to be on their A game when it comes to Bo Nix. As for the matchup to watch, it's got to be the Oregon front four against the Texas Tech offensive line. Whoever wins this matchup, I think is just, they're going to win the game. And I give a lot of the, I guess, credit, or I lean towards Oregon State winning it, or Oregon, I should say, excuse me. The front four is no joke for them, right? Like, Dan Lanning is a stud when it comes down to it. They've got athletes at every level that are elite, right? But on that defensive line, they just churn guys out. And so the Texas Tech offensive line is going to have to be even better than they were in pass protection against Wyoming. And they were pretty good against that. But in the run game, listen, you're going to have to really improve. And listen, this matchup will determine the game, as I mentioned, right? Like, Texas Tech can't run the football and they're one-dimensional. I mean, Oregon is just going to absolutely obliterate Texas Tech in front of their home crowd, I think. It's just one of those things where I do think Texas Tech is a good team, and I think last week really changes the narrative around this. If Texas Tech wins that game in Wyoming, I think there's a lot more hype, and the line doesn't change as drastically as it did. And listen, it changed pretty drastically considering that Texas Tech is the home team. The new line in this one is Oregon is -6.5 favorites, and as they should be in this one, with the total over-under set at 67. Listen, I think it's going to go over personally, right? When I look at this, I think Texas Tech plays much better at home. I don't know what it is. It almost feels like a curse at this point, how bad Texas Tech plays on the road. And it's not just in the non-con. It's in the Big 12 too. I mean, last year they got a good game up in Ames, but it was just sloppy, and Texas Tech mucked it up as well, and they left Ames with a win. But really, Texas Tech has struggled on the road mightily. And at home, they've been a completely different team. But this is a completely different beast that they're facing at home in Oregon. They're absolutely all kinds of legit. I think the Texas Tech offense plays much better in this one. Don't get me wrong. Again, it's at home, and we will know what Oregon's offense can do with Bo Nix as QB1 very quickly, and we really already know what they can do. But against this Texas Tech defense, I think Bo Nix comes out and plays a really good game for Oregon. And that being said, I'm going to take Oregon to win in this one, 38-31. I think the over hits and Oregon barely covers on their end. But this is one of those games, in my opinion, where, again, my head and every ounce of my being except for one body part is telling me, hey, Oregon's going to win this game. But my gut is telling me right now, like, hey, Texas Tech plays really well at home. This game is going to be much closer than people think nationally, because Texas Tech laid a massive egg up in Wyoming. But I think they're going to come back home energized and really compete at a high level. I just think when it's all said and done, Oregon wins this game. Let me know, though, what is your score prediction for Texas Tech in Oregon on Saturday night under the lights on prime time on Fox at Jones AT&T Stadium? Let me know. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long on your one-stop shop for everything Texas Tech football, the most engaging Texas Tech YouTube channel. Of course, I'm talking about the Back to 12 podcast channel.